Hello and welcome to History Bluffs, the comedy game show where truth is stranger than fiction. And now, allow me to introduce myself. I am Adam. Hello and welcome to History Bluffs. Thank you. Let me get myself out of the welcome hole. For those of you who can see, you can see my lovely face. For those of you who are listening, I am Adam. I'm going to be your host tonight for History Bluffs. This is the game show where truth is stranger than fiction. And what do I mean by that? What I mean is the things that have happened on this earth in humanity's time are sometimes so wild that you would think it is a made-up story, and often it is not. Sometimes it is, though. So in this game show, what we have is 3 stories. 2 of them are real from history. They may seem stranger than fiction, but they are not fiction. They are true. One of them is fiction. It is a bluff. It is a history bluff. And the whole point of this game show is to try to figure out through the storytellings who indeed is bluffing of our 3 armchair historians. And speaking of those armchair historians, I don't want to dominate this show. This is not my show. This is their show. I'm going to go ahead and welcome the entire crew to the screen. If you would, welcome all of them. This is Gina. This is Chris. And this is Alan.
Hello everyone.
Hello.
Hi, everybody.
So let's see, Gina, I would like to, so what we're going to do, we're going to pick a topic here for tonight. But before I do, I want to ask just in general, Gina, how do you like your steaks?
Rare.
Oh, that's good.
Butterfly rare, actually. If I'm being honest. Butterfly means they cut it in half. I like that because I like a little more of the flavor on the outside to be with the rare steak on the inside. It's yummy.
Okay, that's good. All right. And Chris, how do you prefer your meat prepared?
I am now a well-done guy, and I'll tell you why. Because on my honeymoon, I had a rare hamburger at the beach in Bermuda, and I ended up getting food poisoning. Little did I know at the time, it was a harbinger of things coming to my marriage.
The meat cursed you.
The meat.
So I don't eat rare meat at all anymore.
All right, that's fair.
Wow.
That's
I would
fair.
venture to say that you ought to, because if it was such a good harbinger then, you would be able to have that with you for the rest of your life, and you would know when bad things would happen.
Man. Oh, that's good. All right, and Alan? You know
I'm a medium
coming.
rare guy. I like medium rare steak. I'm not anti-rare. I will eat a rare steak on occasion, but sometimes I'm a little cautious, like, I don't know, Chris is about undercooked meat. So
Fair,
I'll get it a little
fair.
medium, but I definitely need to have some of that flavor from the pink for sure.
Yeah, and
Right.
I have dipped my toe back in that water a little bit. Not fully rare, but like I would before I was married. I used to eat rare meat, but no. Now I'll eat medium well, and definitely some pink in there.
All right.
Yeah.
I can
Fair enough.
I can confidently say there is a lot of flavor in the pink.
Mhm.
Oh.
Wait, what? Wait, we went double entendre.
Did we? I don't know.
Is that what you meant? I don't know.
I don't think so. What are you thinking, Alan?
Now I'm thinking terrible things.
Oh, man. All right. Well,
There it is.
There it is.
just
Okay.
speaking of all this rare red meat, tonight's topic, ladies and gentlemen, if you couldn't have guessed already, it is rare.
Oh, I love this, Adam. Keep going.
Yeah, I know. I got the music. It's all right. So tonight's topic is rare. What does that mean? For anyone watching this show for the first time, it means that our 3 armchair historians are going to tell us a story now that is centered upon rare. And this is a great time to go ahead and throw out our rule card. So here's the rules. So we have 2 minutes for research. So these 2 minutes right now. This is happening right now. So they're currently planning their stories, either researching them arduously from truth or making them up and fabricating them from fiction. So that's what's happening right now as they go behind the title card. And then also, their stories must be complete fiction or complete truth. And I say that there's a little bit of wiggle room, but in general, they can't take a real story, change just one thing and call it a bluff. That's not fair. So the entire narrative and the point of that story needs to be either fact or fiction. And finally, audience, you are not allowed to help. You are spectating, and you can, of course, critique the stories from your own observations, but do not go to the Googles or the DuckDuckGos or wherever you go for your facts. Don't go there and fact check historians. That's just not cool. Don't do that. It's not. That's the point of this whole show, is to have fun with tangling with the narratives and the storytelling as they are thrown forth by our armchair historians. So them's the rules. So I see some pencils moving. Alan's pencil looks down. I think he's got his story. He was ready to go. All right. So we've got Gina and Chris going. They're kind of doing their thing. If I had good Jeopardy music, I'd play it, but I don't have good Jeopardy music.
Do you have any Jeopardy music?
Oh no, she asked.
It's funny that you asked that, because I do.
Oh my God!
Jeopardy. This is the Jeopardy that could. I will play this until Chris is done. If only Chris were done, we could.
Chris, stop it.
There's that.
I'm
Adam's personal recording.
I tried.
I'm hands free, like apparently just like the person who was blowing into that horn.
Yes, I'm doing my best. All right, so
that
I see pencils
was
down.
Rare.
I think our armchair historians, that was rare. It's a rare treat.
Nice.
So I think our armchair historians are ready to tell their stories about rare. They're not going to be the same stories. They shouldn't be, because we have creative folks, and they're going to come up with their own things. So what we're going to do is we're going to begin round one. Okay, everybody, welcome to round one. Here we are. So the topic is rare. I'm going to take the banner down. For those of you watching, the banner is gone. We just know for a fact this show is about rare. Now, this is round one. In round one, we're going to have 75 seconds for each of you in turn to tell the first part of 3 parts of your story. So I'm going to go with let's see. I'm going to say, Gina, I think I'm going to put you first.
Okay.
So I'm going to put you in the hot seat, and you're going to hear a great gong boom sound. And when that happens, that is the beginning of your round, and the timer will begin. Are you ready?
Yes.
Your round one time begins now.
Okay, there's a gentleman, his name is Mark Cram, and he lived in Hartsdale, New York in 2009. And he lived with his parents, but he was going to Fordham University. He was studying finance, which is going to be ironic when I tell you the rest of the story. And he received several scholarships to Fordham, actually really to any school in New York. And one of the scholarships was for exactly $2,000. $1,000 of it he put towards his tuition. $1,000 of it he put towards buying Bitcoin. I don't know how it works now, but back then what you had to do was it was not something that was done online. There was some kind of like a code that you needed. It was a 64-digit code, and you had to remember and know that code and use it to exchange your Bitcoin. And the Mark Cram placed that on a little USB-A flash drive. Back then, it wasn't even called USB-A; it was just USB. And he put it on his flash drive in his house. He moved away his second year in college. So in 2011, he was living with some guys over. I don't know if it was on the university, but he lived in an apartment with them, and one of the guys was getting married. So he had invested in Bitcoin, and by this point he made a little, I think it was a little over $170,000. That's how much his Bitcoin had increased. And so he decided to take the whole group to a bachelor party in Cyprus, and that's where I will end it until next round, of course.
All right, thank you, Gina. That's a enthralling story involving technology and intrigue. Alan, I see you
I've been
ponderously.
I'm taking notes.
Cents.
I'm taking notes and taking names.
Yeah,
all right. So, for example, Mark Cram was cramming. Was it cram?
Yeah, it's a palindrome.
Okay, Mark. Oh, yeah, there you go. Mark Cram. So she's already revealed how she came up with this. She just palindromed Mark.
So you're saying it's a okay.
And I wasn't even going there, but thank you for tipping your hand, Gina. And then my assumption is because he was cramming for financial studies, that's where she got that idea for. But that's okay. And then this guy he took his group out to a bachelor party with money that he didn't cash in on yet, right, Gina? Is that what he estimated?
I don't know how the stock market works.
He estimated he was worth more than he was really worth. I don't know. Sounds like a little fictitious to me.
Okay, all right, Alan. Thanks for your take. We got to get a take from Chris here.
That was
Chris?
really sick burn.
I couldn't get past the he put $1,000 towards the tuition. I'm like, what year is this? Where's he going to college? What college where you only need $1,000 towards tuition where that actually helps? $1,000 is not even a drop in the bucket nowadays in terms of college tuition. So I was wrapped around that factoid, and everything else kind of went blank on me. I was like, my God, what year was this?
I
don't think it paid for his whole tuition. I think he just part of it. I don't know. It's in the story. So.
Okay, it's in the story. Now, I do have to, as the local resident technician, I do have to also give mad props to saying USB-A, which most people don't even realize that standard USB is USB-A. So that's a pretty good dangling factoid in there to give it a potential root in fact.
Thanks, Tech Adam.
Or Gina's just a lot smarter than we gave her credit for, and she knows these things.
That's true. She's genius about many things. Apparently, USB is one of them. So,
yes,
Alan, Alan, I'm going to put you in the stage now. So, you're going to do your first of 3 acts here for round 1. You will have 75 seconds on the clock, and we're going to hear your story about Rare starting right now.
Well, I was inspired by a Rare comic book, and it took me down a rabbit hole of Marvel Comics that I actually learned something, which is surprising because I know a lot about Marvel Comics. But I want to tell you about a certain character who was introduced in a comic book called Amazing Adventures. That was a very early Marvel comic book, and it was actually the first issue of that series. Amazing Adventures #1 introduced a character named Dr. Droom. Yes, you heard that right, Droom. And it was written, of course, by Stan Lee, like most of those stories were. Penciled by Jack Kirby, not a big surprise. Inked by Steve Ditko, another famous Marvel artist who would draw other characters that I'll bring up later on in the story. But anyway, the character, you might not know Dr. Droom, but I will tell you this. Several decades later, he would become a prominently featured Avenger in the comic books, and according to Stan Lee, Dr. Droom was essentially forgotten about, and then because they made a Dr. Doom character, they had to change his name later on. I'll tell you more.
Okay. Dr. Droom. Dr. Droom. Gina, you've got things to say about Dr. Droom. Let's hear your 2 cents.
I feel like if he was in the Avengers, we would know about him. And then I also feel like trying to say the word prominent, he said a prominent, which is a really good idea. You have those at the prom, and then boys and girls. I guess they don't want the boys and girls to kiss. Never mind. No prominent. No prominent.
No prominent.
I don't know. But it does. It bothers me that he says, I know a lot about Marvel comic books, but I didn't know this. It's trickery. He's using trickery.
He could be. Alan, we all know personally that Alan is a comic book genius, and he could just rattle off names. We don't know where he's going. Chris, do you think this has an anchor in reality, or is he just pulling the wool over on us?
You know, to me, he tipped, as he declared about Gina, he tipped his own hand for me at the very end when he mentioned Dr. Doom. And there was an interesting series of just one letter off episodes here where, Dr. Droom, Dr. Doom, and then the gentleman named Ditko. And I thought, oh no, he's talking about Mike Ditka.
Alan's really phoning in the bluff, isn't he?
Yeah. It's like, oh, come on, at least change 2 of the letters, okay?
You know where he looked it up? He looked it up on the Minternet.
Using the Darktionary.
Oh boy.
Well, all right. Well, that's
oh, Lord.
Alan, you're losing.
It'll freshen your breath while you surf the web.
You're onto something.
Well, Chris, we've already got you in the hot spot. So, Chris, we haven't heard from your story yet. So, this is your first entry, your round 1. You've got 60 seconds on the clock. Are you prepared?
I am indeed.
All right. Your round 1 begins now.
All right, so rare made me think of rare coins, and my story begins in 1322, 700 years ago. Charles IV of France, he ascended to the throne. He was known as Charles the Fair in France, but he was also the king of Navarre, and he was known as Charles the Bald there in Navarre. So apparently, he was not popular. They didn't like the French encroaching on their territory, apparently, in Navarre. But that aside, they at the time back then, when big events like that happened, they made these coins to commemorate the event. And they didn't have the annoying commercials of the American Eagle and from the whatever the mint is that we have in the U.S. on TV. But they really did make these coins back then, and they were distributed. But they were very. This was more valuable than money in ancient times. These coins. It was more valuable than coin money because they were only given to royalty, and it was to commemorate each other's ascensions to thrones and other big events. So this was a very big thing, and we will find out what happens to this coin in the next round.
All right, slide in the home plate there with the time. All right, Gina, you've got your hand up, so I'm just going to start with you. What do you got?
I was just curious. If coins are more valuable than money, then what is money? I'm just of these coins, what did they use for money? Well, didn't they not use coins?
No, they used coins, but it was like a coin, but it wasn't currency.
Oh, it wasn't currency. Okay, yeah. I was not current on that. Okay, now I understand. I'm not sure that I'm buying it, but I understand more than I did a moment ago. Okay. So there's that.
Right, better understanding there. Alan, you're nodding your head like you agree or no, understand.
This is clearly derived from the Franklin Mint stuff we saw all the last couple decades with commemorative coins. And then this guy 700 years ago had his face on a coin that was a commemorative from the Franklin Mint. Oh, look, this is more valuable than the metal it's printed on. You got to get your Charles the Bald coin. Oh, boy. Way to go, Chris. It's entertaining. I'll say that much.
That's good. I have in my notes that Dave Navarro is involved somewhere in there, too.
And he doesn't like encroaching on his territory.
Nobody does. Not nobody, not know how. All right. Well, okay, that was good. So we hit round one. We've got rare. We've got some Bitcoin. We've got some comic books, and we've got 700-year-old coins. So up next, anything can happen. We're going to hear more about all of these stories in round two. In round two, it's just like round one, except we're farther into the stories and there's less time on the clock. So I'm going to go in a different order, actually. Alan, I'm going to put you up for the beginner of round two. You have, instead of 75 seconds, you have only 60 seconds.
Okay.
And your time to continue your story about the comic books of Dr. Droom begins now.
Well, Dr. Droom, and if you've heard this story before, stop me if you've heard it. This guy, he studies the occult. He learns about it in an Asian mountain from an Asian a lama, so to speak, that gives him the magical wisdom to go and fight crime as a magical person. There were issues of Amazing Adventures 1 through 4 that he had stories in. And then he was completely forgotten about, like I mentioned earlier. And then later on, the inker, Steve Ditko, said, hey, I think we should do something called Mr. Strange. And he said, I like the other character with the doctor in his name, so we'll call that character Dr. Strange. So this character, Dr. Droom, actually influenced the creation of Dr. Strange, written by Stan Lee, drawn by Steve Ditko.
Wow. How about that? All right. Wow, that is sounding familiar. Oh, we've got Laura. What are you, Doctor Who? Is this Doctor Who? Are we going PBS with this? Maybe this inspired Doctor Who, and you're just trying to explain to us how all the doctors are related. Chris, how are you feeling about the Doctor?
Well, it's interesting because he mentioned the magic llama, and they're a real thing. In fact, actually, they had quite the reputation. They were known as real humps.
Hey,
Oh,
no. All right, that's good. Gina, do you have any?
Yeah,
No,
I'm not buying much.
Okay, can I
Okay.
tell you, I wasn't buying much, and then I'm like, wait a minute, I know that guy. Isn't that the Benjamin Cumberbatch guy? Like, I know him. And so I was like, this is starting to make sense. But then I feel like there's trickery, because I feel like if you're a lay person like me who doesn't know all of the things about the comic books, you could tell me anything, and I would be fooled. So I gotta say, I am intrigued and loving it. However, I cannot buy it, because I know that my story is not a fib. So we'll go from there.
all right, very good. All right, we'll go with it. You know what? Let's go to Chris. So, all right, so we've heard about Dr. Droom. Let's move over to Chris here. Chris, we're going to go back to your story about the ancient 700-year-old coins from Navarre. It wasn't Dave Navarro. I'm screwing with your story. You'll tell us where. You'll tell us where it's from.
From France. It was Charles the Bald, Navarre known, but it was Charles the Fair in France. In 1322.
Hold on, I haven't started the timer yet. You can't
He's bonus time.
Just clarify.
You can't.
That's my trick.
That was all information that was prior. That was all public knowledge. That was already said.
That's, yeah, there you go.
He got tomatoed.
Tomato of shame. All right, Chris, your actual 60 seconds for round 2 begins right now.
All right. And speaking of clarification, just for your benefit, Gina, this coin, it wasn't really a coin. It was known as a silver piedfort. So that's what it was. And it's bigger than a coin and heavier than a coin. And that's how they distinguished them. And again, it was only given to royalty. So it was lost, right? Then fast forward to 2008 to Shropshire, England. And 9-year-old Kate Harding is in her garden with her mom, or as they say in England, her mum. And they were gardening together. And little Kate, on an early spring day, discovers something in the dirt. She's looking around, digging with her mom, and boom, she hits this thing. And it was this coin. And it looked old. It had this fancy, stuff on it. She's like, oh, this is pretty cool. She just dips it in her pocket, doesn't even tell her mom. And she goes and she puts it in her room. She left it in there for 10 years. She forgot about it. And she's getting ready to go to college 10 years later. And we'll find out what happened in the next round.
Oh, a cliffhanger, as they call it in the biz. All right, we've got some sympathy for little Kate. Gina, how you feeling? Little Kate.
That's a really good trick too, because I used Little Johnny in my last story, and it got a lot of. It made it even better. Man, these stories are great, and I'm just like I cannot tell which one of you is lying. So I will. I love it. I don't know. I like peedfoot. That's great. I think when I'm drunk and I cannot hit the ground, it's peedfoot. And man,
Been there.
peedfort, very different. Okay.
Alan, does little Dr. Droom have anything to say about this?
If he did, it would be perfectly relevant because they're both fictional. So, yes, not that I made up Dr. Droom, but he is a comic book character. Anyway, silver petafort?
What is it called?
Peedfort. It's a made-up word.
I need to work on my diction, apparently.
He made up that word. And so this little girl, 10-year-old girl, was digging.
9 years old.
Okay, she's 9 now. So she in 2008.
Little Katie, come on, Alan.
Little Kate Harding. I know this.
Getting littler.
Kate Harding, just digging a couple inches in the dirt. I mean, how deep do you have to dig when you're planting flowers or whatnot?
Right.
Maybe a few inches. You get a 700-year-old coin several inches in the ground? I don't think so. You got to go a few feet down below whatever's beneath you if you're going to go 700 years back in time. I call BS.
All right. Alan's calling BS as the archaeologist on the team. All right, Gina, that puts you as the last person who needs to go on this second of 3 rounds. And your 60 seconds on the clock to continue your story about Mark Cram and his Bitcoinorama begins now.
The summer after Mark Cram got back from that bachelor party, he realized that he wanted to go cash in some more for his Bitcoin. So I guess that's how they do it, Chris. So he went to go get his hard drive, but he could not find it. I guess he lost it in the move, but he didn't realize it until then. So he started like freaking out and trying to figure out where the last place was that he saw it. And he remembered back over the summer that he had thrown away one hard drive and kept another, and the hard drive that he had nothing on it, and the one that he threw away was the one with his Bitcoin 64-digit code. So he was like freaking out, and so he called the police. The police directed him to the Westchester County City Council, to which they directed him to the landmine or the landfill. Not a landmine, landfill, very different. And he discovered that the landfill actually was a little more organized than he thought, and it actually it was dumped in sections, so they were able to actually pinpoint where essentially the hard drive would be. So he incorporated dogs and other things to try to find it, and we will tell you what happens in the next round.
Indeed. All right, cliffhanger. Chris, if you look like you're catching on to some story here, what do you got?
I am indeed. One of the things that she mentioned was that he lost the hard drive, but in the first round, he had apparently already known how much this thing was worth. So I'm sorry, if you're going to lose a hard drive, you're not going to lose the one with the code that is worth that much. And then, as Gina does, and only Gina can do, Gina speaks fast and tries to sneak things by us. And she self-corrected there in the middle of a sentence. She said, the Westchester County City Council. So it's the county council or the city council. Which one is it? That raised a flag for me. And I say, wait a minute. I think Gina might be flubbing us here. Fibbing.
All right. Alan, did you catch any fibs?
An organized dump. I mean, that's an oxymoron right there. I mean, come on. Look, I've lived in a few dumps myself. They are not organized. So an actual landfill, a landfill being that organized where he's going to go back and go, oh, let's go alphabetically and find where I left my USB drive. I don't know. I'm a little suspect.
Okay.
It's a grid, not the alphabet.
Okay.
Grid.
The grid,
right,
sorted by.
Just wait till the last one.
All right.
Okay. All right. So we've heard from everybody. It's getting the stories are getting thicker and deeper, except for the shallow grave of the 700-year-old coin. We'll find out about that. We're gonna hear. There's only one place to go from here, and that's the finale round number 3. And in round 3, everything gets way faster. You now will have only 45 seconds to complete your stories. So we must have the end of your narratives, be it fiction or truth, be it buff or bluff. And to begin that, I am going to put Chris into the hot spot. Your story about Dave Navarro's hidden coin. It's not Dave Navarro. I'm sorry. I keep doing that too. The Silver Peedfort. In the shallow ground.
Silver Peedfort with Bald Charlie or whatever.
Bald Charlie. It's the worst chocolate factory story I've ever heard. All right. Your 45 seconds begins right now.
All right. So she realized that she had something here when she pulled the coin out after 10 years, having it in a drawer when she's getting ready to go to college. And she went to the museum in nearby Ludlow, England. And they told her, you have to turn that into the authorities. That's an ancient artifact. And the rule is in England is you have to go to the county coroner and turn it in there. And under the Treasure Act of 1996, it's defined as you're not allowed to keep it. Anything that you find belongs to the state. So she did that, and then she started battling with the government, and then they tried to take this coin away from her. In the meantime, in the 10 years between finding it and going to college, her mom died, and this coin was the thing that reminded her of her mom. And she actually went to court and was found guilty of the only person ever convicted under the Treasure Act of not turning in the 700-year-old coin.
Wow, only conviction ever. That's and of course it had to be a little girl. That's good. All right, Alan, I'm seeing
well,
some
she
doubt.
was by the time she turned it in, she was technically an adult, so it does make sense. No, of course it doesn't make any sense. The coroner collects coins, not corpses. That is one alliterative statement I find false.
and attractive sounding. Gina, let's hear your best alliteration.
My best alliteration is that this bad boy story is BS. No, I don't know.
Okay, that's fair.
No, actually, the trouble with this one is that I want it to be true so badly because how adorable, first of all. Second of all, what assholes for doing that to her. And third of all, I mean, she found it when she was a little girl. But at the end of the day, I really cannot believe that somebody would cite somebody for not turning in a coin. I don't know. That just sounds false to me, but I want this so badly to be true. So badly.
Me too.
They do too.
Little Kate.
Little Kate.
She needs her come on.
God, I want this to be true.
Okay, well, Gina, you're in the square, so we're going to keep rolling this third round forward. It's time for you to wrap up your story about Bitcoin and the dump and the city council, county clerk, random political figures. You've got to figure all that out and sort it out for us so we understand. In round 3, your 45 seconds begins now.
Okay, so I left off where he was using dogs. He used heat sensors. He used magnets. He used Google Earth. He got together forums through these online forums to put a team of engineers together. He contacted Bitcoin. In the Bitcoin forum, people were offering him left and right to help him. So they would say, "Oh, as long as you give me a percentage of your share when we find it, I will help you do it." So he eventually was able to get to the like grid area, the part that that they thought that it was buried in. And he paid money and spent money to try to find this hard drive. He spent over 4 years looking for it. He spent over $170,000 of his own money. He made a lot of other money in finance. And what he did, he never ever did find the hard drive, but he did give money to Hartsdale, New York, which is now the richest city in the state of New York. The end.
All right.
You know, isn't it sad? Like he never found it. What an awful thing to like. Yeah, oh, and then can I tell you too? It would be worth over $6.9 billion today.
Oh,
$6.9 billion.
Oh, okay, I was going to give you some guff for going over your time and further explaining, but that was a juicy nugget I wanted to hear. Alan, what's your
for once, I'm glad that Gina finally went over time and said something that we wanted to hear. But I will say.
Yeah,
she mentioned a city in the state. I love you, Gina. She mentioned a city in the state of New York that is not New York City. That is the richest city in the state of New York. I have a hard time believing that factoid, but maybe that's just me.
Well, it's in the Bronx, technically.
Oh, okay. Right. Bronx is part of New York City.
And I was intrigued by the part where, you know, after she mentioned he was using search dogs and then heat sensors, Google Earth, and all these other things. They have on the Discovery Channel, the Storage Wars cruise. They would have found that thing in like 15 minutes.
Yes, right?
For like $45. He just could have hired them. So I'm not buying this.
True.
Yes, true. He should. I would say that. I would venture to say he should still do that. I mean, if it's down there, geez, that's insane.
God.
Even if he found it, how is this thing going to still have its data on it, right? Adam, you're the tech guy.
Yeah, Adam, you're the tech guy.
I mean, if in the proper climate, solid state storage like a USB drive can last quite a while, a lot longer than optical and magnetic.
Well, I would think that a landmine would have the perfect climate.
But it could be exposed to moisture and compression from the garbage truck, and there's all sorts of things that even if he found it, it might be worthless.
These are good. These are good observations, Alan. And you know what? I'm gonna keep. I want to hear more than observations. I want to hear you wrap up your third round. Because you have to defend your Dr. Droom story, the origins of various doctors throughout history. I assume Dr. Pepper is going to be coming into this in no time. Your final round of 45 seconds begins right now.
Well, Amazing Adventures is the series that introduced Dr. Droom. Eventually, well, not even that far. Eventually, issue 7, they changed the name of the series to Amazing Adult Fantasy. No, it's not that kind of adult. It meant for a mature audience because there was violence and stuff in it. But then a few issues later, they changed the title series again to Amazing Fantasy, which some of you comic book readers would know because on its final issue of Amazing Fantasy, which was number 15, they introduced a more famous character who would be known as this guy right here. And then he got his own series.
No!
Wow, that's like, I don't even. That's okay, Chris. I got nothing.
I respect Alan. I love Alan. But I wonder what kind of website is he looking at? He's talking about adult adventures, and then he's talking about fantasy. It's like, come on, get out of the gutter, man. Let's get back to the show and talk about comic books.
I think the website is the Spider website.
Tomato.
Okay, that's fair.
And for those of you listening on iTunes, I didn't say the name of the character, so it was Spider-Man.
It was.
Well, that makes Adam's joke much funnier and less tomato-y.
Yes. Yeah. Gina, what do you think of Alan's full circle all the way around through the Doom Doctor to Spider-Man?
I hate all of this because both of their stories tonight are so fun, and I know one of them is lying. So it's so like this is a very hard night because I don't know that much about the comic book thing, and so he could totally be pulling our leg. And that's if I had to vote, I would vote for Alan. Like if we were voting right now, I'd probably vote for Alan because I don't know. I want them both to be true, and I know that that's not possible. So this is a very sad moment in History Bluffs history for me.
True. That's true. All right. Well, that was that takes care of it. I mean, that was Chris. You finished off your third round. Alan, you just did, and Gina, you finished your third round. So we've heard from everybody at this point.
Those were good tonight. These are all good stories.
These are good stories, and I'll tell you, it's there's a lot going on here. Alan, your expertise in comic books is unparalleled to my knowledge.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So, but that's troubling because you can hide so many details in this, and no one would ever
Correct.
know. Gina, your story. You've got this amazing story about a man with lost riches, which honestly, I think a lot of us can compare to. I mean, I had a retirement fund once before the 2008 crash. I can relate.
That's bad.
You've got this fantastic story about little Kate finding jewels and gems in the dirt. And I want to believe that's real too. But I know one of them is a bluff. Only I know, but you don't. And it's about time to reveal. Are you ready to have the truth revealed and the light shown to you? Well, first, let me remove myself from the setting here. And I have up in front of me everybody who's told stories tonight. It could have been Gina, who is the bluff, or it could have been Alan. Alan also could be bluffing, but it also could be Chris. We don't know who it is. I'll tell you what, we're going to reveal it. Ladies and gentlemen, the bluff this whole time has been Gina.
Oh, what?
What the what?
What?
It's true.
Really?
It is true. Yeah.
It was Gina this whole time.
It was true that she wasn't telling the truth. That's what was true.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
It is true that she was the bluff.
Correct.
Wow.
My family is from Hartsdale, New York, and I know a guy named Mark Cram.
That's mostly bluff. Here's what's interesting is there are in fact stories of people who lost their Bitcoin wallet identifiers, and there are millions upon millions of dollars of Bitcoin that are unclaimable and never will be.
What do you have to do? Why do you have a 64-digit code that can't be online? Or is that your password? I don't know how it works.
It's essentially a blockchain identifier. Yeah, it's like an address, but really complicated.
Okay, so do you really have to do that? I mean, that part of the story I looked up and it is true, but I don't know how it works. So
if you lose it, you lose it.
Wow.
Oh my God.
That stinks.
It's true. So it could have been true, and yet that story might be true, but just not yours. It's not quite that. And of course, using all the technology to find it, that's great. Chris, your story was fantastic. That really happened, huh?
That really happened. She really was convicted, actually. She's the only person in UK history to be convicted of that Treasure Act. And however, they did suspend her sentence. She was 23 years old by the time it all ended. But she had to hire a lawyer and all this stuff.
Oh my God.
And meanwhile, the whole thing. I mean, at one point, I think she was offered like $3,000. But she got the last laugh because when the authorities actually came to her house to collect the coin or the Peatford, and she lost it. Or at least she claims she lost it. So they never recovered it. So she still may have it.
Oh, I want her to sell it on the dark web. I'm learning a lot about that.
She was offered over 3,000 pounds for it, and she turned it down because it was, to her, it was memory of her mom.
Yeah, how very British of her. Alan?
Yeah, so Dr. Anthony Droom is better known as the character Dr. Druid, which I was slightly more familiar with than Dr. Droom, his other moniker. But he started in the same series that would eventually introduce Spider-Man. So I thought that was really cool. And Amazing Fantasy number 15 is a rare comic book to find.
Oh, indeed. This was the best episode.
Takes us right back to rare. Wow. Well, those were all wonderfully rare stories. So I learned some things. I have also been partly hoodwinked, even though I knew who it was the whole time. But I had a good time. So I'll take this opportunity to thank our 3 armchair historians. Thank you, Gina. Thank you, Chris. And thank you, Alan. And of course, this is History Bluffs, where truth is stranger than fiction, and you can come anytime. We're here. We hope you come back for more tales of fiction later. Good night, everybody.
Thanks, Tech Adam.